What is up, YouTube? This is T Quentin One, and today I'm going to talk to you about another season of Smallville, Smallville Season 7. Now, Season 4 was the low point of the series, but Season 5 and 6 got sequentially better. But if you recall, way back when I reviewed Season 3, I said I didn't think any season ever topped it. I may have been wrong, because Season 7 is just a fucking experience. This, this right here is how Superman needs to be adapted. It's dark, but it has moments of fun levity and lots of color. Its characters are thoroughly developed and grounded, but it's also just so epic. And that may be the biggest positive. The scale of this season is just massive. And there are some huge Man of Steel-esque battles right from the start, even though the effects aren't that impressive. But again, right from the get-go, this season opens with an episode focusing on Bizarro, and the majority of the episode is just Clark and Bizarro beating the crap out of each other. It is so awesome. As I said, there's lots of color. The cinematography this season is just great. There's a really cool episode where Clark goes into Lex's mind, and the way it's shot is just so well done. It really feels like a different state of being, but the color really does a good job making it feel like almost the panels of a comic book are coming to life, but it looks grounded enough to be believable. Speaking of Lex, look, I know I gush about Rosenbaum's performance every season, but I'm sorry, he's just so good. In this season, too. I said he basically became Lex from the comics toward the middle of last season, but at the beginning of this one, he tries to change his ways, and it ends in tragedy, as it always tends to do with him. Seriously, though, if there was any doubt that he was the best live-action version of the character, Season 7 shattered those fears. And Lionel is also still an amazing character. He, like Lex, tries really hard to become a better person, but the results of his attempt are even more tragic. There's just this really sad episode where everyone thinks he's a murderer and he's trying to convince them otherwise, and it actually got pretty emotional. There's also an episode called Descent, which is just stellar, by the way, and it opens with one of the most shocking scenes in any season of Smallville. Lex kills Lionel. I mean, they both spent the majority of this season trying to do good, and it ends with murder. Just sad. But it doesn't stop there. After Lex kills his own father, he hallucinates his childhood self as a sort of personified conscience, and Lex fucking throws him in the fireplace. He burns a kid. Away from the Luthers, Tom Welling is pretty good this season. He has a dual role as Clark Kent and Bizarro, and he nails both of them. Clark is on his way to becoming Superman, and he really captures the essence of the character. And as Bizarro, he just plays an unhinged maniac. Think Red Kryptonite Clark turned up to 11. Most of the side characters do a pretty good job this season too. Chloe is still dealing with some pretty emotional problems, and Allison Mack is really good. She's a pretty talented actress. I'm surprised she didn't move on to do much. And Jimmy Olsen is a fun character, pretty close to his version in the comics. Lois also, she got much better over the past few seasons, and like a lot of the cast, she's getting closer and closer to being the character we all know and love. Like Season 3, it delves into some of the characters' dark past. We learn a lot more about the Veritas Society this season, and just why Lionel always knew so much about Clark, and trust me, it is fascinating. Again, like Season 3, it also feels grounded enough to have an impact, but with enough fantastical elements to feel like Superman. It doesn't go quite as bleak as Season 6, but it's dark enough to be really interesting and meaningful. This season also features the return of Brainiac, who is frankly just as badass as ever, with Marsters still just killing it as one of the most iconic Superman villains. And he has some pretty sweet fight scenes too. And this season also introduces Supergirl, and while I felt she was a bit underutilized, I still thought Vandervoot did a great job as the character, and she has some sweet action scenes. They were faithful enough, but updated her, like they do with all the best Smallville characters. There are a few minor nitpicks I have, but nothing that's really going to detract from the score too much. One, look, I just don't see why Lana's still here. I thought that death, quote unquote, she had last season was just perfect for the character and it would have been a great exit, but they shoehorn her back in, and I just, it just seemed unwise to do that because she's just not that interesting anymore. And as I said, the effects still aren't that great. And there's two characters I kind of wish they would have used more of, and that is Oliver Queen, Green Arrow. He gets really sidestepped in this season. He was in like one episode, and like every Superman adaptation, they don't use Supergirl enough. I'm getting sick of that. All in all, season 7 really is the end of an era for Smallville because it was the last season Alfred Goh and Miles Miller were showrunner. But it's a great way to go out on. They went out with a bang, and I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Even with those minor nitpicks, it's still so good that I can't bring it down any lower. So, yeah, this is T Quentin 1 signing out.